Welcome to the new and improved ConfigureITDone Podcast. The ConfigureITDone Podcast is now a place where we interview senior thought leaders in the SAP space across Australia and New Zealand, and the aim is to tap into their knowledge so we can pass on their insights to the listening SAP community. Please subscribe to the podcast and like, share and comment across Castos, YouTube, Apple Podcasts or Spotify.
This podcast is in partnership with the Black Dog Institute, who aim to create a mentally healthier world for everyone. If you wish to donate to the cause, please click the link below.
Welcome back to the ConfigureITDone Podcast, and we are in season 7. I can't believe we've done 6 seasons already, and to listen to the previous 6 series, please visit Apple Music, Spotify, YouTube and Castos. And today we've got another fantastic guest. He's a partner of IBM. It's Wayne Morrison, and Wayne talks about how he firefights and rescues these large complex SAP programs. So please listen to the podcast, like and share and enjoy. We're lucky enough today to have one of the partners at IBM, Wayne Morrison. Thank you for coming on, Wayne.
Pleasure. Nice to be here, Jay.
No problem. So we're going to dive straight in, Wayne. I know we've got a topic, but before we dive into the topic, I'd love to know a bit about yourself and your career and what you're doing now for those listeners that don't know of Wayne Morrison. So if you can give us a bit of an overview, that would be great, Wayne.
Sure. Okay. So look, I have been a long time employee at IBM, 25 years now. So that's not something you see very often these days, but there you go. So look, I've had a pretty varied career at IBM, but my focus throughout that 25-year period has been in the project and program management space. So I've been working in that area for all of that time at IBM. Prior to that, I was in the I was a programmer and in the the technology side of the business. But so I've really enjoyed the project management side of what IBM does, as an SI. So I've been involved in large program delivery probably for the last 15 or more years of that, primarily in telco, in utilities, and also in a little bit of financial services and in government as well. So, very much that large SI space is where I've been spending my time, and really enjoyed doing that type of work and delivering complex programs for a number of clients in those areas.
Perfect, no problem. Thanks for that overview, Wayne. And I know when we caught up last week and we had a conversation around particular topics, I know you mentioned around that firefighting area or rescuing some of them large complex projects. So let's focus on that, and I want to dive in and ask you a question around when you do have a large complex project that needs to be rescued, or you're coming in at a later stage to be that firefighter. What would be your approach and method to that?
Yeah, look, I think there's many different things particularly in large complex programs that can does go wrong. So whilst you can have an approach to going in and diagnosing what the problem is, there's probably no one thing that you necessarily look for. There's many things. But I guess one of the key things that I often see in programs that are in trouble is often it's the simple stuff, right? It's the sort of 101 project management stuff that often goes wrong. So things like governance, governance isn't well set up, or the right people and the right governance forums aren't in place. Sometimes it's people and skill. So there might be particular gaps in capability in the program organisation that need to be rectified and filled. Rarely is it technology, interestingly. It's rarely a technology problem that you find. Often it's more about, the communications, the way the program is being run. So, as I say, the sort of 101 project management type principles, scope management, dependency management, communication, stakeholder management. Those are all areas that you often see, aren't working optimally. It might be, for example, there's a misunderstanding or a lack of understanding across the program of the objectives of the program, what it's actually trying to achieve, and therefore you get stakeholder alignment problems. You got people who actually don't understand what you're there to do or what the program's delivering, what's in it for them. So there's many different aspects of what can go wrong in a program and what can take a program off the rails. So I think when you go in to a complex program where there are problems, there's a method around how you actually spend some time understanding what the problem is.
Sure.
But then and obviously that's critically important. You want to treat the wound and not kill the patient as it goes. But yeah, I mean, I think for me primarily it's really about listening, right? I mean, I think the first thing I do when I go into a troubled program is really talk to people and listen to what they're telling you. So often it's there's a lot of emotion, I think, in projects that have gone off the rails or programs that have gone off the rails. Clients, vendors are losing money, so there's often quite a bit of anger, frustration, so that certainly does play out, and I think you have to be prepared to kind of look through that frustration and anger and look for what's really underneath that, right? What's really driving it.
Sure. So how do you, obviously with that emotion and that anger that comes out, and how do you go about getting to the root cause? I noticed what you said there around speaking to people, but how do you get through that emotion? How do you get to the root cause of what the problem actually is?
Well, I think you've got to listen to people. Like I think that's the key in my mind is listen and understand before you kind of talk and start trying to tell people that these are the things that are going to solve the problem, right? So I think really listening to people and taking on board what they're telling you, right? And I guess probing for what's beneath that frustration or what's beneath that anger, right? Because often it's there, but it's not really necessarily coming out clearly because of the emotional aspects of it. So it's really, I guess, demonstrating to the people that you're talking to that you're actively listening to what they're saying to you.
Yeah.
I think the other thing, frankly, is you've also got to look at the objective aspects of it, right? So talking to people is one thing. There's objective aspects of where they are on the program schedule, for example. What are the key metrics telling you about maybe it's their burn rate, maybe it's the churn rate of people. It could be measurable aspects of the program delivery. Are they delivering code on time? What's the quality metrics look like? So there's some objective measures too that you need to look at that kind of you build up that picture of where things are really at.
Sure. And I know you mentioned, obviously, the theme I'm kind of getting here is people. People are really fundamentally important, and people make projects. I've heard that before from different podcasts as well. Wayne, how do you know who the good people are, who the bad eggs are on a program? Obviously, I know your approach is speaking and active listening, but is there any kind of things you look out for to know that do you know what, that person's good, they're going to add significant value to the program, or that person's not so good and may need to be exited, or what's your approach to that?
Yeah, well, again, it's talking to people, right? I mean, often everyone who's on a project will know where roughly where they think the problems are, right? They'll have a perspective on a problem, and often, you'll get hints of, where the good performance is or where, there's weaknesses. And sometimes it comes out in the objective metrics, right? So it might be there's a really high rate of change on the program, scope is out of control. Or so you'll start to look at, well, what's driving that? Is it project management? Is it requirements or lack of, so you kind of start digging. I think you find snippets when you talk to people and you'll get a sense of it, and then you need to start digging and looking for the objective data to support it.
Okay. And Wayne, normally in a program that needs to be rescued, there's a lot of people that are downhearted, or a lot of people are not motivated. Like how would you, once you've identified the problems and you've identified what's wrong with the program, how do you then galvanize your people to get back on track, or to fundamentally fix what's wrong? How do you galvanize people?
Yeah, I mean, that's a really important question. I think that's to me, it's the key to, starting to dig your way out of the hole, right? It's getting people to buy into the plan. So I think, one thing I've seen, I guess, over the years is I've seen rescues that worked and I've seen rescues that didn't work, right? And to me, the sort of key is really getting the buy-in of the team who are doing the work to the plan. So it absolutely needs to be their plan, right? So you can't go in and say, well, okay, right, you guys, you've buggered this thing up, but I've come in here to rescue this thing for you, and you do X, Y, and Z, and you're there, right?
Gotcha.
I think that's not going to really, get you where you need to go. You absolutely need the team to understand what's happened and why and what needs to change. And they are the fundamental, that's your resource that's actually going to, change the course of things. So you need them to actually understand that, buy into the plan, and then execute on it. So, to me, the key to it is actually getting people to, to understand the problem and help diagnose it, and then, build the plan around, some key changes that need to be made. But I think, so it is having the people who are going to execute that plan buying into it. That's I think a first step. The other step is you need to measure your progress, right? And I think continually measuring progress against that plan. So are you achieving the change that you need to achieve? And communicating that and get that sort of feedback loop, right? So yes, we're on track, or no, we're not, there's still more to do. And, that continuous loop of feeding back, I think is really critically important at all levels. So it's at the perform level, with the team that are doing the work. It's also at the, the governance level, steerco, executive sponsor level. So all parties who are, part of this program of work actually understand whether the plan is, is correcting the course of things or not, and what other interventions may be required, etc. So to me, those are probably the key things: the buy-in, measurement, and then the feedback loop.
Buy-in, measurement, feedback. Love it. That's brilliant. Okay, great. And then that's obviously the people on the program, and Wayne, I'm going to steer it to more the kind of the stakeholders now. Like, how do you bring them along on the journey? obviously you've spoken to your individuals, the project team. You understand what's fundamentally gone wrong with the setup or the governance, and you understand who the good people are, and you've got your plan in place, and then you've got that kind of buy-in from the team. How do you then bring the business or the stakeholders along on that journey as well?
Yeah, well, that's another key aspect of it, clearly, right? So, that's getting the right people, the right stakeholders engaged, keeping them engaged, and keeping them motivated, informed, and active. I think is critically important. So, I think you've got to engage at the right levels, and I think again, a lot of it comes down to human interaction. It's looking at who are the key stakeholders, who are the influencers, who are the decision makers, really understanding that stakeholder map and working it. Working the relationships with those people. Mightn't be me as the program director having that relationship necessarily, but there might be someone in my team who has a relationship with that person. It might be someone on the client side that is bought in and can help work a stakeholder to get them more engaged. It might be going further up the tree and looking at who in that person's hierarchy is key and getting them engaged. So it's really, I think, understanding who the key stakeholders are.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's the communication with those people, right? And the engagement with them. So it might be informal governance. It might be an informal governance. It could be a coffee catch up, a regular coffee catch up with a key stakeholder who has an interest but may not necessarily be as engaged as you need them to be. And just trying to find a way, that mechanism, that leverage point to get them more involved and get them, more engaged in what's going on.
Sure. I think there's a lot of the same theme coming through around that people interaction and really getting to the root cause of the problem, or whether it's formally or informally. And I think that is one of the hardest skill sets to teach and coach. Do you have any success stories where you've successfully passed that on to somebody? Because it's almost like we call it the special sauce. It's like you don't know what goes into it. You don't know the ingredients. It's very hard to define. It's very hard to talk about that and how to pass it on. But do you have any kind of like success stories of where you successfully done that, or how you've coached people to do that in the past? Because I find that very, very difficult myself.
Yeah, look, it's not straightforward, right? I think that's the thing. And I guess I've learnt that over many years of doing this type of work, right?
Sure.
So I think what I've found is that in running programs, you can do all of the right things, right? Engage the right people, do all the right things, do the project management, buy the book stuff, right? And still you can get into trouble. And I've learned, I guess, that, the political dimension, what's going on beyond the boundaries of your project and with other stakeholders, there's other influences involved. And if you don't actually understand the broader context, you kind of, you are at risk, I think, right? So I think you've definitely got to understand the broader political construct in the organisation you're in and the cultural dimension as well. Where I've found, I guess, I've been able to teach that, I think I've had a few engagements over the years where, one of the things I do when I start a program is I actually look at the stakeholder map, right? So I build a stakeholder map. Who are the key people in the organisation? And I guess it does take time, but also, it takes talking to people, right? But you gradually build that map up, and it's a tool that you use all the time. So the good SIs do this always, right? They know who makes the decisions. They know who the key influencers are, and it might be within their program or it might be outside of it. So I think, it's a fairly straightforward, could be a spreadsheet, could be a diagram, could be, any kind of form, but, mapping who your stakeholders are, whether they're an influencer, whether they're a decision maker, do they have, they might have formal or informal decision-making rights on your program. It's, you need to understand that. And yeah, so I use that kind of technique.
Yeah.
And I've used that with a lot of the people that I've worked with over the years. So often it might be I go into a program and, they're having troubles, and there'll be governance might be one of the things, skills and capability might be another, stakeholder engagement might be another, but one of the tools I'll leave them is the stakeholder map, right? So here's a map. That's something you need to continually keep up to date, because people change all the time.
Yeah.
Someone leaves the organisation, new person comes in, can change the dynamics of, everything that's going on in the stakeholder community. So I think that's one of the key tools that you need in your kit bag.
Excellent. Brilliant, Wayne. Okay. And then coming back to the projects and rescues, and you mentioned before that you've seen projects that have been successful with a rescue and you've seen projects that haven't. Can you share a success story of where you've seen a project successfully be rescued, and why that happened? That'd be great.
Yeah, okay. All right. So look, I had one a couple of years ago with an organisation, utility space, where we actually came in to do some advisory for them. They're having some problems with an SI and getting a project really launched. They were really struggling with it, or a program. So we did some advisory. Look, long story short, they ended up engaging IBM to take over that program. And it was very problematic from the get-go for a number of reasons, but it had never been really set up properly for success. So it did take some time to really establish the right type of, governance structures. I mean, really root and branch, establishment of a proper program organisation, PMO processes, documentation templates, all the basic stuff needed to be done. So, it really did take establishing those disciplines, getting the program kind of re-established, and moving forward. And then, there was a lot of resistance in that particular program from stakeholder community. There was, a lack of confidence in the program delivering, given the false start. So there was a lot of baggage actually that program had before it even got off the blocks. Look, the key to that, I mean, in the end, happily, we did deliver that program, and it was a success. So, good story, but there was a lot of angst over time in getting it over the line. The key to me was stakeholders, getting the stakeholders on side. That took a couple of key stakeholders on the client side changing, with a fresh pair of eyes, and they could see the value that the program was going to deliver. So they were very bought into its success and the need for it to be delivered. So there were some pretty direct messages given to, the vendor organisation, so the organisation, my organisation, and the internal organisation as well. So to me, it was about executive alignment. Ultimately, that's what really determined the success of that program. We had all the capabilities within the team to deliver it within the broader the program organisation, but it really took the key stakeholders getting aligned and behind it to get it over the line. That was the key.
Perfect. So a lot of direct messages, and then the key kind of trigger point there was the change and a fresh pair of eyes. Fresh pair of eyes on it. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think once that occurred, and we all kind of got around, a plan to deliver and a date to deliver, then it all started to fall into place, and we got the job done.
Excellent. Wayne, that was fantastic. Thank you for sharing that. It's a lot of insights there that I think a lot of project managers and program managers and desiring program managers as well could take from today. One question that I have, obviously you've been working for IBM for 25 years and been in this industry for a long time, and you would have worked with a lot of highly capable people. But is there anybody that you would like to invite on the podcast that you'd like to listen to their insights? And it could be about any topic at all, but yeah, anybody that you'd like on the podcast. I'm aware I've put you on the spot here.
Yeah. Yeah. Look, Jay, there's probably quite a few. Yeah, can I take that one on notice? I'm not sure I've got a direct, clear answer. Can I come back to you on that one? Because
Yeah,
there actually is someone that I think would be, so, in the project success story that I referenced, there's an executive that on the client side that I worked with that really was the key catalyst behind that. He would be someone really worth talking to.
Sure.
I think his insight would be particularly interesting.
But that would be good, I suppose, to get the customer side. Once we've had obviously we've had the SI side today, but the customer side, that would be good. But thank you anyway, Wayne, for coming on today and sharing those insights. We speak to you soon.
Great to talk to you.
Please like, share, comment, and subscribe to the Configure It Done podcast.